What if I told you Canada just pulled a move that could change the future of electric vehicles forever? A decision so bold that it could shake Tesla to its core and disrupt the entire North American auto industry. This is not just another trade deal. It is a power shift that no one saw coming. For decades, the United States and Canada have worked together in automobile manufacturing, but that relationship is now in jeopardy. Canada is turning away from American automakers and embracing a shocking new partnership with the European Union. What does this mean for Tesla, Ford, and General Motors? And more importantly, what does it mean for you? Stay tuned, because what happens next will change everything. Canada's bold electric vehicle deal that changes everything. Canada just made a strategic pivot away from the United States and toward the European Union, and the consequences for Tesla and other American automakers could be devastating. This new agreement is not just another trade deal. It has the potential to reshape the entire electric vehicle market in North America and beyond. The Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, an expansive agreement between Canada and the European Union, is opening the doors for European automakers to enter the Canadian market with unprecedented ease. This means that European manufacturers such as Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz could soon have a significant advantage over Tesla and other American brands. Tesla, the dominant force in the electric vehicle industry, is suddenly facing a serious challenge. The Canadian government has been incentivizing electric vehicle adoption for years, and Tesla has benefited immensely from those policies. However, with a shift toward European partnerships, Tesla's grip on the Canadian market is at risk. The United States and Canada have long enjoyed a mutually beneficial trade relationship, but rising tensions have prompted Canada to explore other options. And this deal with the European Union is just the beginning. If Tesla loses Canada, it will not just be about sales. Canada is a key supplier of critical battery minerals, such as lithium and nickel. These resources are essential for Tesla's production, and if Canada prioritizes European automakers, Tesla may be forced to find new suppliers at much higher costs. This could increase the price of its vehicles, disrupt production, and slow down the company's long-term growth strategy. This shift is more than just a financial decision. It is a strategic move that could redefine the balance of power in the global electric vehicle industry. And that power shift is about to hit Tesla where it hurts the most. European automakers have been aggressively expanding their presence in the electric vehicle sector, and now, with Canada's backing, they have a new opportunity to dominate a crucial market. While Tesla remains a major player, this could be the tipping point that allows its competitors to catch up, and the consequences will not stop at Tesla. This shift could impact the entire American auto industry. Why Canada is turning its back on Tesla. Tesla has long enjoyed a strong presence in Canada, with thousands of vehicles sold each year and a growing network of charging infrastructure. However, the Canadian government is now taking a different approach. The primary reason? Retaliation. The United States recently imposed tariffs on Canadian cars and raw materials, triggering a strong response from Canada. One of the biggest targets of this trade dispute is Tesla, a company that heavily relies on Canada's resources. Lithium and nickel, two essential components of electric vehicle batteries, are mined in Canada and used in Tesla's production. If Canada decides to restrict access to these materials or prioritize European automakers, Tesla's entire supply chain could be at risk. The Canadian government has also been shifting its policies to favor European automakers. New incentives and agreements are making it easier for European brands to compete in Canada, while American manufacturers, including Tesla, may face additional hurdles. This is not just about trade, it is about economic strategy. Canada is positioning itself as a global leader in electric vehicle production, and aligning with the European Union may offer long-term stability that the relationship with the United States no longer guarantees. For Tesla, this means an uphill battle. And if you think Tesla is the only company facing trouble, wait until you see what happens to the entire U.S. auto industry. The company has been expanding aggressively, but losing Canada as a major market and resource supplier would be a significant setback. And Tesla is not the only one in trouble. Other American automakers are about to feel the pressure as well. U.S. automakers are facing a supply chain nightmare. The effects of this trade shift extend beyond Tesla. The entire United States automobile industry is now facing a crisis that could disrupt production, increase costs, and lead to massive losses. For decades, Canada has been a crucial part of the North American auto supply chain. Factories in the United States rely on Canadian-made auto parts, steel, and aluminum. If Canada fully embraces European trade partnerships, American manufacturers will have to find alternative suppliers, which will be neither easy nor cheap. The interconnected nature of automobile manufacturing means that even small disruptions can have cascading effects, delaying production and increasing prices for both automakers and consumers. There is also a growing concern about the future of the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, which governs trade among the three countries. If Canada begins prioritizing European trade, the agreement could become unstable, leading to even greater uncertainty for American automakers. Without a reliable and cost-effective supply chain, companies such as Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis could face severe production slowdowns and rising operational costs. If American automakers are forced to pay more for materials, those costs will inevitably be passed down to consumers. But the real shock comes when buyers realize just how much more they'll be paying for their next car. And that leads to the next major issue, the rising cost of vehicles in the United States. Why U.S. car prices are about to surge. Car prices have already been on the rise due to global supply chain issues. But this new trade conflict could make things even worse. The imposition of tariffs on Canadian goods, combined with Canada's shift toward European partnerships, means that production costs for American cars will likely skyrocket. Electric vehicle batteries rely heavily on raw materials such as lithium, nickel, and cobalt. If Canada prioritizes European manufacturers, American companies will have to source these materials from other countries, where prices may be significantly higher. The same goes for steel and aluminum, which are essential for vehicle production. As a result, manufacturers will be left with two options: either absorb the extra costs or pass them on to consumers. History shows that they almost always choose the latter. But it is not just about higher sticker prices. This trade shift could also lead to delays in vehicle production, making it harder for consumers to find the cars they want. Supply chain disruptions, material shortages, and higher import costs could all contribute to a decline in vehicle availability. For American consumers, this means longer wait times, fewer options, and significantly higher prices. Meanwhile, Canada is actively welcoming European automakers, who now have a major competitive edge, and this could be the final nail in the coffin for Tesla's dominance. With lower tariffs and better incentives, European brands may soon dominate the Canadian market, further sidelining American manufacturers. Tesla, Ford, General Motors, and other American companies could find themselves struggling to compete, not just in Canada, but globally. This is not just a temporary shift. The decisions being made today could permanently alter the future of the auto industry. And as Canada continues to strengthen its ties with the European Union, the United States will have to decide whether to fight back or adapt to this new reality. One thing is certain: this trade war is far from over, and the consequences will be felt for years to come. Tesla's worst nightmare: the rise of European EVs. If Tesla loses Canada, who takes its place? The answer might already be clear, and it is not what Elon Musk hoped for. European automakers are moving fast, and Canada is rolling out the red carpet. Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Renault are seizing the opportunity to establish dominance in a market that Tesla once considered secure. With Canada forging deeper trade ties with the European Union, these automakers now have a powerful advantage that Tesla and other American brands do not. Canada's shift toward European manufacturers is not random. It is strategic. The European Union has long positioned itself as a leader in electric vehicle innovation, with stringent environmental regulations and aggressive incentives that push automakers to electrify their fleets. Canada's latest policy adjustments align perfectly with this approach. While Tesla struggles with new tariffs and supply chain disruptions, European automakers are gaining preferential treatment. Under the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, the European Union benefits from reduced tariffs and streamlined export policies, making their vehicles more attractive to Canadian consumers. This shift does not just mean more European electric vehicles on Canadian roads. It could redefine the entire market. If the Canadian government extends further incentives to buyers of European models, Tesla could find itself completely outpriced. Affordability has been one of Tesla's biggest selling points, but that advantage may soon disappear. As German and French automakers expand their offerings in Canada, consumers may start seeing more competitive pricing and better financing options that make Tesla's presence feel obsolete. The consequences of this shift extend far beyond Canada's borders. If Tesla starts losing ground in one of its key markets, it sends a message to other countries that the company's dominance is no longer guaranteed. The European Union's success in Canada could be a blueprint for how other nations approach electric vehicle trade agreements in the future. And with Tesla already facing mounting challenges, this change in Canada might be the first major blow in a much bigger fight. What a 100% tariff on Tesla would mean. What happens when Tesla prices double overnight? That is the terrifying question that thousands of Canadian Tesla owners and potential buyers are now asking. Canada's plan to impose a 100% tariff on Tesla vehicles could be one of the most aggressive trade moves the country has ever made. If this goes through, it would make buying a Tesla in Canada virtually impossible for the average consumer. The numbers paint a bleak picture. A Tesla Model Y, which currently costs around $50,000 in Canada, could suddenly have a price tag exceeding $100,000. The Model 3, Tesla's most affordable and widely sold electric vehicle, would see a similar price surge. This would immediately take Tesla out of reach for a massive segment of the population. While Tesla has always positioned itself as a premium brand, doubling its prices in one of its strongest international markets could result in a total collapse of Canadian sales. But the impact does not stop at car sales. Tesla's Canadian supply chain is deeply intertwined with its global operations. Canada provides key raw materials like lithium and nickel, which are essential for battery production. If the Canadian government restricts access to these resources or diverts them to European automakers, Tesla's production costs could skyrocket. This would not just affect Canadian buyers. It would ripple across Tesla's entire global network, making its vehicles more expensive everywhere. Yet, the most dangerous consequence is not just in manufacturing costs or consumer pricing. It is in how the markets react. The fear of losing access to Canada's market and resources could send Tesla's stock into a downward spiral. Investors are already uneasy, and this trade war might be the spark that ignites a much larger financial crisis for the company. Could Tesla's stock crash over this? Tesla's stock is one of the most unpredictable in the market, and right now it is walking a tightrope. Could this trade war be the final push that sends it plummeting? Investors are watching closely, and the tension is growing by the day. Tesla has faced stock volatility before, but losing a critical market like Canada could trigger a level of uncertainty that even Elon Musk might struggle to manage. History shows how sensitive Tesla's stock is to global trade conflicts. During previous trade disputes between the United States and China, Tesla's market valuation fluctuated wildly. A major disruption in Canadian sales, combined with the threat of losing essential battery materials, could create a similar effect, if not worse. The moment a 100% tariff is officially implemented, analysts expect an immediate stock reaction. Some predict a short-term dip, while others believe it could trigger a long-term decline if Tesla does not act quickly. Beyond the numbers, the psychological impact on investors is significant. Tesla has always been seen as a company that thrives on innovation and expansion. Any sign of losing market share or failing to adapt to international trade policies could shake investor confidence. If institutional investors start pulling out, Tesla could face a major sell-off, making it harder to secure funding for future projects like its planned factory expansions and battery development programs. And it is not just Tesla itself that could suffer. The entire electric vehicle market could see a ripple effect. If Tesla, the leader in global electric vehicle sales, starts struggling, it raises questions about the stability of the industry. Other automakers might hesitate to expand, and new electric vehicle startups could find it harder to secure investments. This is not just a Tesla problem. It is a market-wide warning sign that could slow down the entire electric transition. But even if Tesla weathers the storm, there is another issue looming on the horizon, one that Musk himself has been trying to avoid. Tesla has been relying on Europe as its next big growth opportunity. But now that plan is falling apart. How Tesla's European expansion just got harder. Tesla was counting on Europe to fuel its next wave of expansion, but Canada's shift toward the European Union is making that future uncertain. Just as Tesla starts ramping up production in its Gigafactory Berlin, it is facing an unexpected challenge: rising competition from European brands that are now strengthening their foothold in Canada. Tesla's strategy in Europe has always relied on securing resources and supply chains that give it a competitive edge. Canada's battery materials have been a critical part of that plan. If those resources now go directly to European automakers instead, Tesla will have to look elsewhere for key materials. This will not just increase costs, it could slow down production at a time when Tesla needs to expand faster than ever. The European Union's own policies are also creating problems. As the region pushes for more local electric vehicle manufacturing, Tesla may find itself squeezed out of the European market by its competitors. Governments are introducing incentives that benefit homegrown brands like Volkswagen and Renault, making it harder for Tesla to maintain its dominance. This is the nightmare scenario Tesla hoped to avoid. With Canada pivoting toward the European Union, Tesla is now facing obstacles on both sides of the Atlantic. Losing one market is bad enough, but losing two at the same time? That is a crisis that could redefine Tesla's future. And the worst part? The battle is far from over. Because now Tesla is running out of moves, and its biggest challenges are still ahead. The question is the biggest auto trade partnership in North America falling apart? Could this be the end of US-Canada auto trade? For decades, the United States and Canada have worked hand in hand, building an automotive supply chain that is one of the most interconnected in the world. Factories in Ontario supply parts to assembly plants in Michigan. Raw materials from Canadian mines fuel the production lines in Tennessee. Automakers rely on a seamless flow of vehicles, metals, and components between the two nations. But now that system is facing its greatest threat yet. The shift in Canada's trade policies is not just a response to new tariffs. It signals a fundamental realignment, one that could permanently alter the way North American cars are made. With Canada deepening its economic ties with the European Union, United States automakers may no longer have a guaranteed market north of the border. If trade restrictions increase, automakers like General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis could be forced to rethink their entire North American strategy. That would mean more than just rising costs. Companies might have to relocate factories, shifting production away from Canadian plants and into states that can still supply their parts without trade barriers. The North American Automotive Agreement, once known as the North American Free Trade Agreement, and now called the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, was designed to prevent these kinds of disruptions. But with tensions escalating, it may not be enough to keep the industry intact. The consequences of this shift would not just affect the automakers. The ripple effect would stretch into every sector connected to the auto industry: transportation, logistics, manufacturing, and even consumer prices. If Canada fully pivots toward the European Union, the cost of importing vehicles and car parts between the United States and Canada will climb. That means buyers could be looking at higher sticker prices, fewer incentives, and an overall shift in how vehicles are sourced and sold in North America. This goes beyond trade disputes. It is about the future of an industry that has long depended on cross-border cooperation. And yet, the tensions between these two nations are not just confined to the automotive sector. The stakes are about to get even higher. The energy war: could Canada cut off US oil? What happens if Canada stops supplying the United States with oil? While the world watches the escalating auto trade conflict, another crisis is brewing, one that could shake the foundation of North America's energy security. Canada supplies a majority of the crude oil imported into the United States. For decades, pipelines have carried millions of barrels per day from Canadian oil sands to American refineries, fueling industries, transportation networks, and households. The relationship has been stable, but like the automotive industry, it is now under serious threat. If Canada decides to redirect its energy exports to the European Union, the impact would be immediate. Gasoline prices could surge, leading to higher costs at the pump for everyday drivers. Industries reliant on oil, from manufacturing to aviation, would be forced to adapt to a sudden increase in expenses. The loss of Canadian crude would leave the United States scrambling for alternative sources, potentially driving up demand for Middle Eastern and South American imports, both of which are subject to volatile geopolitical risks. But Canada has more than just oil. Natural gas, a crucial energy source for heating and electricity, could also be redirected. The infrastructure exists for Canada to expand its liquefied natural gas exports to Europe, providing an alternative to Russian energy. If that shift happens, American consumers and businesses could face disruptions. particularly in regions dependent on Canadian fuel supplies. This is not just about economics, it is about leverage. Canada holds significant power in the trade standoff, and energy is one of its strongest bargaining chips. If tensions continue to rise, the decision to cut back on energy exports could come sooner rather than later. That would not only reshape the energy markets but also shift global alliances. The world is watching, and what happens next could redefine the balance of power between these two nations. Is Canada just bluffing? Is this just a negotiation tactic? Or is Canada making a permanent move? It is the question on everyone's mind as tensions rise between Canada and the United States. This is not the first time these two nations have locked horns over trade, but this time the stakes are far greater. The automotive industry, a pillar of both economies, is on the line. Canada's move to align with the European Union in electric vehicle production is more than just a business decision. It is a geopolitical power play. Throughout history, trade disputes between Canada and the United States have followed a familiar pattern. Threats escalate, negotiations stall, and in the end, both sides find a compromise. The steel and aluminum tariffs of past years proved this cycle. But what if this time is different? Canada is no longer just reacting. It is strategically positioning itself as a key player in the global electric vehicle revolution. With its wealth of critical minerals and increasing production capacity, Canada has options. This is not just about countering tariffs. It is about securing its economic future in an industry that will define the next century. Could this be a leverage tactic? Perhaps. By signaling a shift towards European automakers, Canada may be forcing the United States into a corner, pushing it to reconsider its aggressive trade policies. If the United States wants to maintain dominance in North American electric vehicle production, it may need to rethink its approach to Canadian trade. The longer Washington holds firm, the more Canada builds ties elsewhere. And if this is not a bluff, the consequences could reshape global auto trade forever. Will the United States fight back? The United States does not take economic threats lightly, and history has shown that it is more than willing to retaliate when its interests are at stake. So how will Washington respond to Canada's bold move? The Biden administration's stance on trade has been clear: protect American jobs, strengthen domestic industries, and reduce reliance on foreign imports. But Canada is not just any foreign partner. The two countries share one of the world's largest trade relationships, making this dispute unlike any other. The first option on the table is counter tariffs. If Canada imposes heavy duties on Tesla and other American automakers, the United States could respond in kind. More tariffs would escalate tensions, increasing prices for manufacturers and consumers alike. But would that be enough to force Canada's hand? Ottawa has already signaled that it is prepared for such a response. With alternative trade routes opening in Europe, simply mirroring tariffs may not be the winning move this time. Another possibility is financial incentives. The United States could offer subsidies or tax breaks to American automakers, making it more attractive for them to keep production and sourcing within North America. This would lessen the impact of losing Canada as a trade partner. However, that comes with its own risks: more government spending and potential backlash from domestic industries that may not receive the same benefits. The most extreme outcome? A full-scale trade war. If both countries refuse to back down, tariffs could expand beyond automobiles, affecting everything from energy to raw materials. This would be devastating, not just for manufacturers, but for workers, suppliers, and consumers on both sides of the border. The auto industry does not function in isolation. It is deeply connected to global markets. A prolonged trade conflict could push automakers to move production elsewhere, weakening both economies in the long run. The decisions made in the coming months will set the course for North American trade for years to come. Will the United States double down on its stance, or will it find a way to de-escalate? Either way, one thing is certain: Tesla and the entire auto industry are about to face their biggest challenge yet. But what do you think? Let's know in the comments down below.